Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous, and here's her story. Hi, Ollie. I'd like to tell you that this channel has been a help to me. I've been in a funk lately, and listening to your videos lets me know that I'm not alone, and this strange kind of abuse is real, and it's a relief because all my life until about 6 months ago, I couldn't understand why I could not, despite all my efforts, I could not find peace in my life. And that's really what the struggle is about. I think for most of us is getting over it's fighting narcissistic abuse or recovering from it is just a search for peace. It's really it. It's a search for peace. You don't want to fight them. You don't. You just want peace. And they use that against you. In 2010, at the age of 28, I found a safe haven in the program of AA. I've been sober from alcohol now for 8 years now. Through the years, I've been healing and looking at self, and began doing inner child work and talk therapy. I had found some happiness, yes, but still there was negativity and strife around me from my family of origin. I circulated through all the A's: AI Anon, ACOA, OA, you name it. I exposed myself to it. Read the books, worked the steps, but still the chaos that ensued from my family seemed to take over my mind, time, and resources. Right, because here you are, you're going into all these these A programs where you're supposed to accept, I have no control over my life. God has all control over me. It's all my fault. Yada. You didn't get into anything of why you became an alcoholic in the first place. And I'm not shitting on Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm not. But see, the root, what their main goal is these, because they do get a lot of people off alcohol, so it's not like all bad. But where I've seen what they do, it's all about taking self-blame. Where there's self-blame, there's self-blame. But there's a reason why somebody starts drinking like this in the first place. And if you're not addressing any of that, if you're taking all the blame on yourself, you're just doing the narcissist job for them. So what good is the recovery if you're taking all the blame for the alcoholism they caused publicly? So not only do they now get off for causing your alcoholism, okay, they get to turn around and blame you for it because you've publicly said, yeah, it's my fault. No wonder you can't find inner peace. My family's problems were my problems. They followed me, literally, at times. The healthier I got, the more independent I became, the more softly guilty and angry, the more I so felt guilty and angry. I felt guilty for healing from things that they are not aware of, and they may never heal from, because they lack the ability to look at self. Also, I was angry because I was stuck with them. They're aware of it. They're the cause of it. Understand something. The guilt is I don't think it's guilt, it's anger. Because you're here taking this blame on yourself when you know they're the cause of why you're an alcoholic in the first place. And they don't like it. So at the same time that you're bettering your life, they first off, they don't want to see that. And secondly, they're almost blaming you for it. Basically, the healthier I've gotten, the less I want to be involved in the lives of my parents, for damn sure, and at times my siblings. Right, because you realize they were the toxicity you had the problem with the entire time. So the healthier you're becoming, you're realizing how toxic they actually are, all of them. The toughest thing that holds me back from up and moving to another state and going completely no contact from my entire family of origin is my nieces and nephews. There are 11 of them ranging from ages 1 to 26. Listen, I have talked to so many people on this channel who are trying to hang in for nieces and nephews. You can't save anybody until you save yourself. Nieces and nephews are not your children. They're just not. And I've seen too many people get burned and get shoved further down the rabbit hole and get hoovered back in trying to save nieces and nephews who only turn on them anyway later. I encourage them and create healthy bonds with them and try to be the one person in their life who doesn't want anything from them, but to be that fun aunt who you can go visit to take a break from the bullshit at home. In my youth, my aunts and uncles were my safe havens, and I try to do the same for the youngsters in my family. The older kids, I'm starting to toe their dysfunction hinders their growth, but they are trying all they can to keep surviving, and I try to be a source of information and awareness to solutions for them. I have hope that at least some exposure can be seeds that may have positive impact on them, and if they are ever truly ready to heal also. Right, but those seeds can be used against you as well. Because it seems like it's you against everyone else, and it's really easy for you to be alienated. I come from a long line of alcoholics and probably narcissists if I looked closely enough. My mother says I am the product of a rape by my father, who was her husband. She said after she had my brother, her second born, she didn't want any more kids, as she had her one girl and one boy. But my father wanted another child and raped her to have me. You know, I've heard that over, like women who said, you know, the father, like the actual, like the not it was like they're the child of strange, like the father raped the mother to have them, and most times this turns out to be false. It just does. It just does. And you wonder why you became an alcoholic, right? I was never breastfed, and my mom says it's because I didn't want her. Maybe I already hated her then. LOL. Seriously, I don't know what the truth is, but I do know I was a daddy's girl, and when my dad was home and not off on a drinking spree, he tried to create a good home environment, but he never had peace due to her constant nagging. He would get drunk, beat her up, she'd call the cops, and he would run, stay gone until he missed us kids too much and would come back. One time when I was 9, he didn't come back. He died chasing his drink. A month later, my mom met my stepfather in a bar, brought him home. He's never left to this day, this perverted man. So your mother's just running around looking for dick and attention the entire time. Your mother Your mother just didn't want you because she wanted to go and party and drink. I believe for most of my life I was the lost child. I was often left home alone, and now that's my comfort zone, being alone. As I grew older and my siblings become more involved with their growing families, my mother turned her attention on me and began moving in with me and asking for emotional support and such. My parents were always unstable. They moved around a lot all our lives, but when my sibling and all became adults, my parents rotated living with moving between myself and siblings. I am the youngest of three children. My sister is 10 years my senior. My brother is less than 2 years older. Anyhow, I finally gave up a great apartment on the outskirts of the city to allow my parents to illegally sublet it, and I moved out 2 to 3 years ago. What scum. I discovered about 6 months ago that my mother is a covert narcissist. One day I called my 12-step sponsor again because something my mom had done drove me up the wall, and I was so fucking angry because she called me to complain to me about all the household issues, and I have learned already to stop offering advice because none of them ever listen or give a shit. I know they all call just to vent and want someone to validate their crazy and rationalization or coddle them like the big babies they are. Anyway, this particular time, my sponsor, who is also a master's level counselor, she asked me to write a list of things I do not like about my mom. Later, when we met, I read her a list of 4 pages, and by the time I finished reading the list out loud, I was astounded at how awful a human being my mother truly is. Yeah. When you put it into words, you see how awful the narcissist is. That's why like this channel works and channels like mine work. Because when you write it out and you put it into words and you talk about it, it's like, holy fuck, you're a monster. Holy shit, why didn't I see this? Want to know why you didn't see it? Because you didn't physically see it in front of you. When you physically write it down and see it in front of you, it's like, holy shit. Good on your sponsor, though. Good on your sponsor. At least they're doing deep digging. You know, a lot do not. A lot just go right to it's your fault. You have no control over your life. Turn it over to God. Like, I've heard those horror stories over and over again. So you're very fortunate to have a decent sponsor. My sponsor said to me, as she said many times before, you had the same childhood I had and the same kind of mother. She then said maybe she has said this before and I can't recall. Maybe I wasn't ready to hear it then, but I heard it now loud and clear. She said, and my mother was a narcissist. In that moment, it was like a friggin' parting of the clouds and light shone down and the pieces of the puzzle started coming together. Right. She might have said it to you before and you didn't make the connection because you hadn't wrote it down. So once you had the combination of both of them, the evidence in front of you and her saying, you just, when you see it in words, it's like when I had my parting of the clouds. Like it all just made sense. When my Aunt Ginny, the one who died 4 days after my mother, found on WebMD a write-up of histrionic personality disorder, and it described Virginia to a like it was like holy fuck. And as I kept reading it and then moved on to borderline, I'm like, holy shit, this is Laura. This is Drunky. That's where the parting of that's where it all happened. When you write it down, you see what you see how awful the narcissist is. I had been researching the internet the past couple of years about narcissism because I met this guy on Facebook in 2017 who was an interesting, strange, handsome, charming man. Yep, narcissist and overt as it turned out. I didn't know that at the time, but I was just off a 7-year stretch of no dating and being celibate and tinkering with the idea of dating, and the next thing you know, I'm in love with a long-distance asshole. Gasp. Yes, I know something was majorly wrong with my man selections, and I now understand that I wasn't in love with him. I was repeating the pattern I knew all too well. The pattern of love bombing and giving supply, and when needs aren't met, then comes the discard. The neglect and emotional abuse in this particular case in the form of a handsome, charming character. When I met the guy in person, he ended up being a drunk loser with a limp and a floater. No home, no roots, doesn't give a fuck about anything but a good time. That was 2017. In 2018, I got myself into another codependent living situation with an ex who I spent 10 years with at one time. We had the most tumultuous relationships ever back in the day that involved tattooing our names on each other. Also him serving a 2-year drug sentence at one point. All kinds of great drama back then. Blah, blah. Then he comes back into my life when he divorces the woman he left me for. Thank you, Facebook, again. And 6 months ago, I finally got done with going around the mountain one more time with him and finally got him out of my apartment before the holidays. But I recently made another bad judgment call. Oh my God, yes, I'm my own worst enemy. I know hindsight is 20/20. Last month, I helped a friend in need, a lady friend I have known for at least 5 years that I met in AA and a fellowship with spiritual events and such. Church events, Christian concerts, conventions, etc. It's been all well and good to have a friend you hang out with once in a while, but the deeper I am getting to know her as a roommate, the more she is crossing my boundaries and takes over. Whether it's space in the fridge, counter space, or my time in listening to her talk about herself, she wants more than her fair share. I have set a I've set a move out date of May 31st, but also let her know if she is financially able to move sooner, I would prefer that. I believe she is also a covert narcissist on the lower spectrum, but still a discomfort to me in my home. I do see that I am the common denominator and ready to make major changes because I am fed up. Finally, I've had enough. Some days I want to scream at the top of my lungs, why are you fucking narcissists fucking everywhere? Because you're look, somebody in you're meeting at a AA is probably going to have I would say a 60 to 90% chance of being abused by narcissists, being on the spectrum of narcissism, being just as fucked up as you are. When you got to make a life change, when you're making a life change, you got to change all of it, and you keep going back to the mistakes you made when you were, to the people you knew when you were addicted. Or people who were addicted themselves. You got to get away from the addiction. You got to get away from it. As much as you can't save everybody. You can't save these people. You got to save yourself. Everybody you're going to be coming in contact with, you're going to have like let's just call it an 85% chance of them being a narc. Because that's how they ended up being in that situation in the first place. Or abused by them. Either way, it's no way to get a fresh start. I'm still having talk counseling with my sponsor counselor, and since I found out my mom is a narcissist, I've been in official therapy and having EMDR treatments as well. I practice a daily spiritual program of action, including prayer and meditation, and my hobby is researching and trying new coping tools to find healthy mechanisms that work for me. I am now 37 and am cautiously single. Never had children because I was afraid I would be the same monster to them and am so tired of taking care of people, I gave up on the idea of having a family of my own. Also, I am severely affected and have stunted social skills and communication skills. I am awkward at meeting new people and avoid dating because I don't want to be a needy, raging bitch that I can be in relationships. I maybe someday date for current is in my still. I don't know what that says. I maybe someday date for co-rent is in my name, companionship only, not to be rescued. But right now I am flying solo until my therapist and sponsor approve of me dating. It sucks to be so stunted and mentally confused. You can't trust your own mind to pick a romantic partner. I feel that the place I feel like I'm at a place where I have slowly eliminated many toxic friends and acquaintances from my life over the years, and now I'm being more cautious of who I let into my life. I am creating boundaries with my parents and siblings and only help them when I want to, and I am learning to say no the rest of the time. This still limited contact approach still triggers me. I end up still worrying about my family, especially the little ones. And although I no longer put those sad emotions in action by trying to help or bail out any one of my needy family members, I still mentally fuck myself. The apartment my narc mom and stepdad rent is still in my name. It's a shitstorm over there with my 21-year-old niece living there, as well as most recently my brother and his 3 kids, as he's going through a divorce himself with a woman I believe to be a narc or BPD. She is leaving him for better supply and splitting their 5 children. Anyway, that apartment ties me to that, and I'm still looking forward to signing over that apartment officially and completely to my mom as soon as possible. Yeah, I would. So you got to have you're living with a roommate in the apartment you're in now, so your parents can illegally sublet the other apartment? What are you doing? What you're really doing is you're living as a dry drunk. Because the decision making, the people, you're bringing the same people into your life that you were when you were still an alcoholic, when you're still a drunk. And you're letting these narcissists turn you into a dry drunk by making the decisions you were kind of making when you were still drinking. Not to that same effect. You are still what is known as a dry drunk. They're the source of your alcoholism in the first place. You got to cut off that apartment, get them out, move back into it, sign it over to them, and you need them out of your life. Because what you are doing right now, you are living as a dry drunk. A dry drunk is an alcoholic who doesn't drink, but still feels like, lives the effects of it. The sickest part of this is my stepfather, who 3 years ago I discovered is closeted transvestite who is really into freaky random stranger meetups. They have remained married even though the whole family knows about him and everyone keeps telling mom to leave him. He still goes where she goes. It's like they are a team, even though they are each other's worst abusers. It's such a sick dynamic. They have a sick cycle of him leaving a few times a year for days or weeks or a month to go binge drink and get his freak on. One time during one of his hiatuses, I stayed the weekend with my mom to keep her company. And she had been alone all week, and I couldn't stay too long because she would follow me around the house, even to the garage where I would go sneak a toke, LOL. It was fucking weird. Now I get why, and I remember more incidents, and the puzzle keeps getting filled in. Your channel has been comforting to me. I also like Teal Swan and a channel and a channel called Integration, and Assist Direct, also a great YouTube resource. Thank you for what you do. I believe everyone has a purpose. I'd like to say that, in my opinion, you, sir, are uniquely qualified in healing and helping narcissist abuse survivors, and you are great at it. Thank you. Well, I'll say this. I'm glad at least you're sneaking a toke in the garage. Stick with that. Try some edibles. If you can get your hands, I don't know where you are, if you can get your hands on concentrates, try to move along the concentrates. They work wonderfully for stress and anxiety. Absolutely. As a medical user, I can say that. So, however, you shouldn't have to sneak a toke anywhere. Anyway, that's what alcoholics do, or see, still living as a dry drunk. That's what's really going on in your life here, Anonymous. You got the alcohol out of your life, but you're bringing in the same people and the same types of people that you were interacting with when you were still an alcoholic. Why is that? Because the people who caused your alcoholism to begin with, the narcissist who caused it to begin with, is keeping you as a dry drunk. I mean, look at the dysfunction in your family here. I mean, they're just going to use you right to the end. And you're 37 years old. I mean, how much longer do you want to put up with this? I hope not much. So, I hope that helps. Thank you, Anonymous, for your contribution and your story. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook live chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been The Narcissistic Resistance. Take care.